Hi, and thank you for joining us for this 3CLogic live talk session on the value of integrating speech analytics with ServiceNow. My name is Guillaume. I will be your host for today's session. Couple quick housekeeping items. Keep in mind that some of what we might cover could be considered forward-looking in nature. We simply ask that you take that into account. With that, let's get started. So for those of you who watched a couple of the other sessions we've made available as part of our ServiceNow Now at Work channel, some of these data points may look a little familiar, but stay tuned. We've got some fresh ones for you. But I did want to start the conversation here, which is that 75% of easy customer journeys will oftentimes begin in digital channels. So an easy customer journey defined as something that lends itself to self-service. So for example, password reset. And digital channels accounting for channels such as email, chat, an online knowledge base, maybe even a self-service portal. And yet the data will show that over a third of those conversations, even though they originate in digital channels, will typically require or find their way over to a live call center agent for additional assistance. In fact, if you look at data from last year, 2019, 74% of individuals actually admitted to calling into a help desk or a service center. And interestingly enough, the largest users were millennials, people between the ages of 24 and 35. And a lot of what I'm sharing with you is data that was pre-COVID. So if you look at the impact of the pandemic, which accounts for the majority of this year, what you've seen across all industries is call volumes in each call center spike significantly. For example, if you look at the airline industry, people were frantically looking to rebook their travel or perhaps ask for a refund. You look at the healthcare industry, people were calling in frantically to find out where they can get tested for COVID. You look at the online retail business. A lot of individuals are now calling to potentially get an update on a package that's overdue. Or if you look at the public sector, people are calling into their governments to get updates perhaps on why they haven't yet received their stimulus check. By and large, what you'll find is that voice as a customer service channel remains very important to the overall customer service value chain. In fact, 60% of individuals would actually prefer to speak to a live call center agent during difficult customer journeys, often bypassing altogether any self-service or digital channels that need be made available to them. And a difficult journey can be defined as something that's complex, time-sensitive, otherwise critical in nature. And yet, those interactions with end customers, specifically around voice, that again happen oftentimes be due to complex or critical inquiries, only 2% of those are actually analyzed on a manual basis each day, which means that 98% of those interactions go completely unanalyzed. And so that rich data into the health of your interactions, your overall call center organization remains hidden. So it should come as no surprise that 66% of businesses are looking to leverage tools like advanced analytics and AI to really tap into that dark data. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce you to our guest speaker, Rachel Brown. Rachel Brown is a senior account executive here at 3CLogic. She also happens to be our resident speech analytics specialist. Rachel, good to have you.
Guillaume, good to be here, and I'm excited to talk about speech analytics today.
Likewise. So let's kick in and get into this a little bit. So let's start with the basics. What would an organization presumably already need to have in place for speech analytics to be a possibility?
So most organizations today, if they've already gone down the path to utilize a system of record like ServiceNow, they'll begin to understand the value of having an integrated telephony solution to complement ServiceNow's digital channels. So most likely they'll have a CTI. So in this particular use case here, you can see that 3CLogic has an embedded CTI within ServiceNow. So this is where the agent can make and take calls, and having that telephony work alongside ServiceNow's digital channels really closes that loop on the full omni-channel experience. So now all agents have all channels at their fingertips. So the goal really is having that first step, that integrated CTI within ServiceNow is a good place to start. And if you're not there yet, this is something that organizations can work along and move towards from a digital transformation perspective.
Gotcha. So the idea is make sure that although there's a huge emphasis on digital channels today as part of the overall digital transformation strategy that many organizations are pursuing, that you want to make sure that voice is actually integrated and included in that transformation. In this case, integrated with ServiceNow, side by side with the other channels that an agent might be responsible for. That makes tons of sense. So let's actually take a step further. So let's assume an organization has gone through the effort of integrating voice with ServiceNow. How does that then play into speech analytics? When does that come into the equation?
So that's a great question. So if organizations have gone down this path, they're going to have some traditional telephony information that's already posted within ServiceNow. So you'll be able to see like call type, start time, end time, call duration, the agent that took the call. But what it typically didn't give you before was that rich understanding of what happens inside the call or the interaction itself between the agent and the caller. So that's really where speech analytics can come into play. So what gets interesting is when you start to enrich service now at these moments, which you could see here is could be negative, neutral, or positive. It actually can also show you the full transcription of what's happening inside the call, which is great. But what's really going to help with speech analytics is taking a further deep dive and showing what it would do if speech analytics is actually applied to a call. So not only does the call breakdown show you all the different moments that are within this call, but moments are actually very valuable to an organization. They're the key points of interest, whether it be hold time violations, displaying patience and courtesy. All that can be tracked and managed right within the solution. So key moments are actually tracked two different ways. So the first way would be obviously, the way that most organizations are flocking towards, which would be through AI. So in this particular example here, negative customer sentiment is a moment that's most important to an organization. You can see that they're actually, it's being tracked via AI and natural language processing. So what this does is it not only takes into account what was actually said throughout the call, but actually how it was said and picks up that detection, which could be really important to an organization. The other way that we can track a moment would be through keyword spotting. So in this particular example, supervisor escalation, it actually showcases every different way that you'd want to really, in all honesty, just get to a manager, whether it be speak with a manager, get with a manager, transfer me to a supervisor. All these keywords are picked up here. So the first step would be, being able to make and take calls within ServiceNow. The second step is now being able to track and manage these moments to really get to the next level and see what's happening inside your calls.
Gotcha. So you have the calls, you've transcribed the calls, you're mining them for specific events, what you call moments, using either AI or keyword spotting. So that sort of helps with the analysis. How does that then come back full circle to ServiceNow? Where's the added value there?
So that's a great question. And what happens is now that we have these moments here, you can take these post sentiment call moments. And what would happen is you can now utilize ServiceNow using their flow designer to create actionable alerts and automated tasks. So what you can really do is utilize ServiceNow to create a workflow. So that way when, say for instance, if a call comes in and it picks up that it was not only a negative moment, but there was negative customer sentiment that actually happened on the call, as a supervisor, you can now utilize Flow Designer to put those alerts or tasks right into the supervisor's inbox. So what this is really doing is it's giving automation to why negative customer sentiment happens. So now, as a supervisor, you may not even have to listen to 100% of the calls coming in. Automation is right around when really at the most peak point of you want to reach out and maybe listen to calls or reach out to a customer and see if it's an isolated incident, or reach out to a customer proactively to make sure that they're happy and doing okay. So I guess step 3 would be you have the call data posted. You now have the transcription. You can see actually what happened inside the call. But now taking it a step further would be supervisors are in one platform utilizing ServiceNow to be able to proactively reach out to customers when something happens. But it makes for better productivity, and you have a full holistic view of your call center, and you can find the best and easy way to handle calls coming in and give the best possible experience to customers.
We're talking about the analysis of all the engagements and interactions, not just that subset, that 2%. You're talking about everything, right? So now you not only have an accurate view, but then the system is actually scaling the effort of determining which actually deserve or need that additional assistance or value that a supervisor could lend to a situation. Could be a positive one. Very often it's to respond to something that's going south. But is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And in this day and age, you know, a lot of times you find that supervisors don't have the availability to walk around and listen to calls anymore, or have agents raise their hand in a typical call setting. So this can really help a supervisor to really see the calls that are coming in that need their attention and, quite frankly, deserve their attention.
So that's an interesting point. What you're referring to is now that, the majority of organizations are moving to this work from home model, a supervisor doesn't have the luxury of being in the same building, let alone the same room as the agents that they're responsible for. So they can't visually identify an issue. So this helps them to still maintain that awareness, even though now everyone is remote, correct?
Yep, absolutely. And it's all automation, right? So it's just a matter of going in, looking at their tasks and following up where they need to. Absolutely.
Gotcha. Well, that's very interesting. So let's see if we can't draw some conclusions here for our audience. So if we take a look at some of the key takeaways, obviously, I think step one is the fact that voice remains a key part of the customer service value chain. I don't think, Rachel, that you and I are advocating that digital channels don't play a meaningful role as well. But if voice is sort of that escalation matrix, how well your agents perform at that moment can be the difference between a good experience, a bad experience, and ultimately the difference between a lifelong customer and a lost one, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously, sort of what you showed, gracefully in the context of ServiceNow is how you can apply AI and speech natural language processing to really help scale what has to date often been a manual effort, which is the analysis of each of those customer engagements to really uncover and pull the veil back on that everyday dark data so that you do actually understand everything that's going on, and more importantly are drawn to those events that really deserve additional help, assistance. Perhaps it's an opportunity for coaching and so forth for the agents, right?
Yeah.
And then lastly, at the end of the day, the last thing is you like to avoid doing the analysis in yet another platform, right? So the goal is how can you then relate that back to the system, in this case, ServiceNow, that the organization is primarily using to drive its customer service processes and workflows. And the idea here is, can you automate, but at the same time create actionable insights that are going to drive that better customer experience, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, for those of you who aren't familiar with 3CLogic, if you haven't guessed it yet, this is sort of our cup of tea. We are the leading cloud call center solution for ServiceNow, and we help modernize communication for enterprises for both their internal employees as well as end customers. And we've got customers all over the world across a number of different industries. We also are a ServiceNow certified application and technology partner. And a lot of what we do leverages the power of cloud hosted on Amazon services. So the scalability, the flexibility, and the reliability of a cloud solution is just another added value that we bring to the table. If anything that myself or Rachel have covered drew your attention, or if you'd like to explore how speech analytics could potentially align with your digital transformation or general overall ServiceNow initiatives, both for this year and into the new year, feel free to contact us at servicenow@3clogic.com. You can also reach us at info@3clogic.com. But with that said, we certainly hope that you found this session informational. Rachel, any last words?
No, I just hope that organizations are thinking about this as they go towards the digital transformation. We know it's important to give the best possible customer experience out there, and 3CLogic can help. So certainly we would definitely answer any questions that you may have about anything that we covered today.
Perfect. Well, again, Rachel, thanks for joining us. I know you're a busy person. For those of you who stay tuned and watch, thanks. Make sure to tackle some of the other sessions that we make available in our Now at Work channel as well. With that, we hope to see you again sometime soon. Bye.